First of all, I want to thank you all for being here with me today. I am Chance Pingleton with the Chance Pingleton Show. That's just my luck. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Let's get right into it.
I can't see where you're coming from. I know just what you're running from. What matters ain't the who's better.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to That's Just My Luck, the Chance Pingleton Show. Today is going to be the first episode of the new podcast. I'd had a podcast quite a few years ago and lost the clips or didn't apparently subscribe again to the website. I don't know what happened. I think the website got shut down that I had my podcast listed through, so it was taken down. So here we are, starting it all over again. It's just me and you, back where it all started the last time. I want to welcome you. I want to thank you for being here. And today we're going to talk about kind of how I became me. So to start this off officially, welcome to episode 1. Or as I like to call it, let's trauma dump together. Again, this is That's Just My Luck, the Chance Pingleton Show. Today's not a guest episode, that's coming later. Today is the story of my life, or at least the parts that made me the massive miracle and mild inconvenience that I am today. If you've ever wondered why is Chance like that, well, buckle up. You're about to find out. This isn't going to be a polished, fake, perfect backstory. This is the actual truth. The wins, the losses, the heartbreaks, the stupid decisions, the parts I laugh about now, and the parts I definitely didn't laugh about then. So during my more early years, look, I wasn't born cool. In fact, I'm pretty sure I came into this world with the same energy I have now. Confused, dramatic, and immediately hungry. I grew up like a lot of people around here. Small town, dirt roads, everybody knows everybody. And if they don't know you, they know your cousin who got arrested that one time. I wasn't a wild kid, but I definitely had my moments. Like the time I tried to fix the lawnmower by taking it apart and then realized I had no idea how to put it back together. Or crashed my four-wheeler into a tree because I was convinced I could drift in it or on it like, Fast and the Furious 3, Ozarks edition. But honestly, my childhood wasn't the problem. Life didn't go sideways until later. Through my teen years, all my bad decisions and worse haircuts, the teenage version of me, oh boy. Let's just say I was running on 60% testosterone, 40% insecurity, and 0% common sense. I had a haircut that looked like I had lost a bet, truck that broke down more than my mental health, and a habit of falling for girls who treated me like I was optional. But underneath the dumb jokes and the bad decisions, I was struggling. Trying to figure out who I was, trying to fit in, trying not to disappoint anybody. It was the first time I ever felt that thing. That pressure, that heaviness, that voice that says you're not enough. And once you hear that voice, it sticks with you. I won't lie. Relationships shaped a lot of my life. The good ones and the absolute dumpster fire ones. Every girl I liked had one of these 3 traits. They were either emotionally unavailable, they liked me just enough to keep me around, or was only texting me because they were bored in the drive-thru at Sonic. I'm out here whipping around in the 4Runner at that time, and thought it was so cool that I could do reverse burnouts. And then next thing I know, I'm replacing rear ends or blowing motors up. No, I was a freaking dingus. But we had a lot of fun. The heartbreaks, though, they taught you things. I learned what love felt like, what losing it felt like, and what it felt like to be the almost in someone else's story. And each time something ended, I tell myself, all right, Chance, toughen up. Don't feel anything, push it down. Which, fun fact, is exactly how you create emotional earthquakes years later. I'm still single. Apparently, I cannot handle other people's emotional needs. Been told that one a couple times now. I care too much. Been told that once. I don't really know what to do at this point. I'm single and willing to entertain, not single and willing to mingle. I am a great entertainer, though. There was a period maybe a couple years ago where I wasn't really living. I was just existing, pretty much. Going through the motions. I was drifting, trying to be what I thought other people wanted. I'd wake up tired, go to work tired, I'd come home tired. I could barely recognize myself in the mirror. I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I also wasn't doing anything right, if that makes sense. And I'm sure maybe some of y'all can relate with that. I wasn't growing. I wasn't chasing anything. I wasn't proud of myself. It felt like I was watching my own life from the back seat, like someone else was driving, and I didn't have the guts to grab the wheel. It was almost like I lived life in slow motion, and so much was happening around me that I just couldn't grasp what all was actually going on. I've experienced some amazing things in my life, from traveling from every corner of the United States and everywhere in between. I've seen the most beautiful sunrises over some of the biggest mountains, and I've seen the sunsets over some of the coldest flatlands. Life has been a beautiful thing thus far, but it's also been a cruel bitch to me. There's been a lot of times in my life where I didn't have it easy. Fuck, most of my life I didn't have it easy. I still don't have it easy. Making more money helps. Having more friends usually makes you feel better. But at the end of the day, none of that shit matters. I just, that's life, baby. That's just my luck. That's what I tell myself all the time, is that's just my luck. If I didn't have luck, I wouldn't have, bad luck. I wouldn't have luck at all. And it's true for me in most scenarios. I feel like every time I take a step forward, I get knocked down to have to take 2 steps back. And that's been kind of the going trend for a while. And I'm not for sure how to move past it. I'm working on it. But eventually I hit rock bottom, and it was very quiet. Not with a bang, not with some dramatic meltdown, just a slow, exhausting realization. I don't like who I am right now. And maybe this isn't the episode to go into a lot of details about that and what happened, but just know it was a really dark place that I was in, and it was a scary place, and I had to have a hard realization that that's not where I wanted to be. It fucking sucked. But that's life, baby. But one day I got home and went down to Cloud9 Ranch, local off-road park where I live. It's pretty much where I live during the summers. Every weekend I'm down there riding side-by-sides and everything else. I have a lot of good times down there. A lot of friends that I go with down there. But I was down there. No music, no friends this time. Just me, just silence. The sun was setting. Man, it was a picture-perfect sky. But I felt empty, and I felt completely drained. And one thought hit me. I'm tired of being the passenger in my own life. And that was the turning point. Right there on that ridge, that's where the old version of me died. And the new one started creeping in. I realized I'd been running from my own potential, and, I needed better standards. I wanted more out of life. I was done letting fear decide things. It was time for me to grow. It was time to do something different. And that's kind of when the podcast idea hit. I said, I want to do the podcast again. The last time I did it, I was getting a lot of emotional trauma out from my childhood. And I wanted to kind of do this one a little bit different. With the first podcast, I started with like my earliest memories through grade school, worked my way all the way through school, all the way through high school, into my life after. It was basically a biography of my life. And I didn't want this one to quite be the same way. I want this one to be a more motivational podcast. I want this one to be like a real, raw, uncut story of my life without having to story tell every step of my life. I want to talk to you guys about the struggles. I want to talk to you about how I'm finding growth in myself and how I'm moving forward and how I'm changing the outcome that I thought was already before me. I'm done hiding my story, right? I'm done pretending. I'm done being quiet. If my life's been a mess, then cool. Let me turn the mess into a message. And God knows I have fucked up a lot in my life. Right? I've done a lot of things that I'm not proud of. I've made some real bonehead decisions. And I've gotten in trouble for it. Sometimes I've gotten away with it. Fuck me, man. Like, why even risk it? And I look back now and that's what I think. But at the time, dude, I was just living life to the fullest. I was having fun. Nobody could tell me nothing. It's been a mess for a long time. Every time I turn around, I think I've gotten it together. And then fucking life happens, dude. And it just knocks you down a couple more pegs. And everybody gets that. Everyone understands that feeling and everybody's been through that. So, I don't know. To a point, it's, we all got to make a change. And I think that's been the biggest thing. You have to make a change for the better. You have to make a change that helps you. And fuck, I don't know, man. I think that I went to counseling earlier this summer, and I think that probably helped me a lot. I had to do this program, and I had to fucking talk about my feelings and shit, and that sucked. But I'll read like a couple of these passages that I wrote, and maybe it'll help you guys as well. One was a letter to myself. And this was actually a harder one than I thought it would be, is writing a letter to myself and kind of giving myself forgiveness. It's that, man, I would recommend anyone do this for themselves. It was fucking hard, man. To give yourself forgiveness, to give yourself flowers, man, that shit's tough. But here's the letter I wrote to myself. Dear me, I'm writing this letter to finally offer something I've struggled to give myself for a long time, forgiveness. I've spent too many years carrying guilt, shame, and regret over the things I cannot change. Today, I want to begin the process of letting go. I need to forgive myself for the times I hurt people I cared about, whether through words, actions, or neglect. I need to forgive myself for losing control, for making choices that led me down dark paths, and for not being the version of myself that I know I'm capable of being. I also need to forgive myself for giving up on myself at times, for doubting my worth, and for thinking I wasn't deserving of love, respect, or a second chance. These things need to be forgiven because holding on to them has only weighed me down. Carrying the shame has kept me stuck in the past. It's made it hard to move forward and believe in myself. It's affected how I see myself and how I show up in relationships. The pain hasn't been useful. It's only built walls around my heart and mind. What has prevented me from forgiving myself in the past is the belief that I didn't deserve it. That I had to stay guilty as punishment. I thought that if I let go, I might be letting myself off the hook. But I'm learning that forgiveness is not forgetting or excusing, it's healing. I've also been afraid that if I forgive myself, I might repeat the same mistakes, But the truth is, holding on to guilt hasn't stopped those mistakes. It's just made it harder to grow. So today I choose to speak to myself with honesty, grace, and courage. I forgive myself for the pain I've caused others. I forgive myself for the times I gave up on myself. I forgive myself for not knowing how to cope in healthier ways. I forgive myself for the decisions I made out of fear, anger, or confusion. I forgive myself for staying in survival mode when I deserved to be healing. Forgiving myself will change my life because it will allow me to finally start fresh. It will let me live without constantly replaying old mistakes in my head. It will give me the freedom to show up as who I am now, not who I used to be. Forgiveness will open the door to peace, confidence, and growth. It won't erase my past, but it will help me use it as a stepping stone instead of a prison. I'm ready to live with self-respect, not self-resentment. And I know that forgiveness is not a one-time event. It's something I will choose every day as I continue this journey of recovery in my life. With love, me. And I tell you this, man, that was one of the hardest letters or passages or whatever I've ever had to write. And I sat there and self-reflected for hours trying to think of how I was going to write, a forgiveness letter to myself. And it was hard. But I look back on these projects that I've done, like that one, and man, it makes me reflect on all the things in my life that I've done that I was just like a fucking idiot for. And I can forgive myself now and not like feel bad for myself. Be like, man, who you were isn't who you're becoming. Not anymore, at least. There was plenty of opportunity for me to go down those dark paths and for me to really fuck up and become somebody I didn't want to be. And I caught it kind of early on where now I don't have to be that person, So I don't know. It's good to reflect, and it's good to, I think it's good to like better yourself and be a better version of yourself. So that's the chapter 1 of my life. It's not the highlight reel. It's not the Instagram version. It's just the truth. I've messed up. I've been hurt. I've hurt people. I've been lost. I've been stuck, and I've been broken. But I'm still here, man. I'm still trying. I'm still growing. And honestly, that's all any of us can do. So if you're still listening, thank you. This podcast isn't just my story. It's ours. It's for anyone trying to rebuild themselves one day at a time. And trust me, man, it only gets better. From the times I was worried about being an alcoholic or, a bad father, being a toxic partner in a relationship, man, like all these things that we go through, and especially for men, we don't talk about it. And I think that's been one of the biggest problems is men don't talk. And that's been hard, especially for me to do. But this part right here, this is for the men. For the guys who don't talk, for the dudes who swallow everything they feel because somewhere along the way, someone told us that emotions make us weak. Let me be the one to break the news. It's fucking bullshit. You know what's funny about the reality of being a man? Everybody talks about men like we're stone walls, like they don't realize how much, weight those walls are holding. We don't talk because we're tough. We don't talk because we learned we had to be. Since we were kids, we heard the same lines on repeat. Quit crying, man up, handle it, figure it out, don't be dramatic, nobody cares. So we stopped talking. We stopped sharing. We stopped letting people in. Because somewhere deep down, we're convinced if we open up, someone's going to think less of us. But the truth, every man I know is carrying something heavy. Maybe it's childhood stuff. Maybe it's heartbreak. Maybe it's money stress. Maybe it's the fear of failing, the people who depend on you. It's maybe feeling like no matter how hard you try, it's never enough. It's a pressure we don't talk about. And you know what? You want to know what I've learned? Men don't break because they're weak. Men break because they've been strong for too damn long by themselves. We're expected to be protectors and providers, leaders, the rock, the backbone, the calm in every storm. But nobody ever taught us how to carry our own storms. And if you come from a generation like I did, our parents were the type of people, especially the men, where we don't talk about feelings. We don't express those feelings. We bottle them up. We compartmentalize them. We don't talk about them. Lock them up, throw away the key type of shit. Toughen up. You're a fucking man. Act like it. And that's toxic behavior. But let's talk about relationships for a second. Like real ones. Being a good partner isn't about money or muscles or being some perfect, unshakable force. It's about showing up. And this is something I have to consistently remind myself of as I pursue relationships. It's about showing up. It's about being present, being honest, being willing to break generational curses your dad or your grandpa and every man before them never even confronted. It's setting your pride down long enough to say, hey, I'm struggling right now. And this isn't just like with your girlfriend or your wife. This is with your friends. This is with the boys. This is with anybody that you're close with, that you trust. You could put this shit on them, man. Like, I love it when one of my friends, like one of the dudes, calls me and says, hey, man, are you busy right now? I say, no, what's up? And he says, hey, I'm going through some shit. Perfect. Fucking lay it on me, man. Tell me. Let me know what's going on in your life. I will be there every step of the way to help you or see you through it. You know what I mean? And until you ask your boys about it, and you guys understand what I mean, where we don't usually talk about this shit with even the guys. Like, you don't go to fucking dude night and fucking talk about this. But call one of the boys up, man. If they're your best friend, they love you. They care about you. You're like a brother to them. If you're going through some shit, they're going through some shit. So put it on them and let them help you and be there for them as well. Sit your pride down long enough and say, hey, I'm struggling right now. You know how hard that is for a man? It's like trying to bench press a truck. But that's what you have to do. That's what makes you a good man, is not pretending to be invincible, but being real enough that your partner, your buddy, or whoever actually knows it. Like, they know you're struggling. They know you. They know you care enough that you're bringing it to them. I was talking about being a father a second ago and being scared that I'm not a good one, or I was going to fail as a father, or I'm not going to mount up to much. And if you're a father, it's a whole different battlefield. Kids don't just need a provider. They need a man who's present. A man who loves loudly, a man who teaches them what strength really looks like. Not that old school toughness bullshit that's all anger and no communication. But the kind of toughness that says, I'm going to show you how to be strong and kind. I'm going to show you how to stand tall without stepping on others. I'm going to teach you how to break the silence so you never have to live in it like I did. That's some real shit that, I try to teach my son daily. Every day he's with me. I try to teach him how to become a better person. Tonight we was upstairs. We was watching How the Grinch Stole Christmas. We was sitting there and, he was asking me why the part of the movie, it shows the Grinch's heart and it's really tiny. And he's asking me about this, and we've seen this movie before, but he always notices little things like that. But he was asking me, is that how small my heart is? And I said, no, you have a big heart. He said, is it because I'm nice to others? I said, well, that's part of it. I said, whenever we say someone has a big heart, I mean, it's not bigger than other people's. I said, when we say someone has a big heart, it's because they care about others. They're nice to others. They're kind. They're considerate. You can be the baddest dude in any room you walk into, but you can still have the biggest heart. And it's lessons like that as a father, I want to teach my son. Maybe I don't know. It's maybe not what I need to be teaching him right now, but that's something I feel like as a man he needs to learn is you can always be the bigger person. You can always be a better person. You can always be a better man, better dad, a better husband, a better boyfriend, a better friend, whatever, a better worker. it's just in little lessons like that I've been trying to teach him. And it's like things like tonight, I noticed he's learning from that and he's realizing who he's becoming as a person. He's 6 years old, but he realizes that, do I have a big heart because I'm kind to others? That's a big hill for a little man like him to climb, to get up there and realize that that's what he's doing. And I love it for him. I'm proud of him that he realizes that. It's those little moments like that, you just sit back and you kind of think about what they say and you're like, man, yeah, he kind of had a little point, he's picking up the lessons. But I don't want to be tough on him. I am tough on him. I'm tough as hell on him. I make him mine, Good Lord, I'm surprised someone ain't called me into child services yet for whooping his ass in the middle of a public store. But at the same time, I want to teach my kid the same way I was taught. Whenever I was growing up, I had my ass whooped, but then I wouldn't get explained to what I did wrong. I was too stupid to realize what I did wrong, so I'd do it again. But with him, I'll whoop his ass and I'll turn right back around, have him stop crying. I'll have him hug me and we'll sit there and we'll talk. And I'll be like, man, this is what we're doing, bud, and this is what we can't be doing. You can't be acting this type of way and expect to not get that ass beat. And he realizes that and he learns from that. And every time he does something, he's like, hey, Daddy, I can't do this right because I'll get a butt spanking. I said, you're damn right you will. I said, thank you for realizing that and thanking you for bringing it to my attention. But yeah, let's not be doing that. But man, let's talk about real toughness. The world lies to men about what strength is. And that's a fact. It's not about having a six pack. It's not never crying. It's not pretending everything is fine while your soul is on fire. Real toughness is admitting that you're hurting. It's asking for help before you're drowning. Choosing to be a better man today than you were yesterday. Real toughness is being a safe place for your partner, being a hero to your kids, fighting battles nobody sees, and still showing up. And I believe kind of like the turning point for men is men are tired, not lazy, not weak, just tired of carrying everything in silence. The amount of times I talk to men, and just by the tone of their voice or their body language, man, you can just tell they're wore out, they're tired, they're struggling. They're the ones having to try to keep it all together and try to be the support system for everybody else and their friends or family, whatever. And man, there's so many men out here that just don't talk, man. And that's so unhealthy. It's so unhealthy. Get out there and don't take all the weight of the world on yourself. Today is a great day for you to reach out to one of your best friends or your parents or your brother or sister or your whatever, your partner, and be like, hey, man, I've been keeping some shit bottled up for a while. I just want to know if I could talk to you real quick. Maybe try to get it off my chest. Maybe I'll feel a little bit better about it. If they're your real friends or they're your real loved ones, they're going to say, yeah, dude, dump it on me. I can handle a little bit more. Don't be afraid to ask them, though. Don't be afraid to do it. That's like my number one lesson for today is don't be afraid to fucking talk, man. You're allowed to feel. You're allowed to break, heal, change. You're allowed to be a human. Because the world doesn't need perfect men. The world needs honest ones. And everything that I've been talking about is just being honest, man. Be honest with yourself. Write that letter of forgiveness to yourself. Apologize to your family. Forgive those people that did you wrong. Be honest with them if they hurt you. Don't bottle it up. Don't hide it. If you're going through something, fucking put it out there. So if you're listening, man, and you're going through it, thinking you got to handle it all on your own, just know that you don't. You never did, and you never will. For real, dude. It's okay to talk, and it's okay to struggle. It's okay to grow, and it's okay to finally take that damn weight off your chest. You're not weak. You're not alone. You're a man. And real men don't hide from the hard stuff. They face it. And that's probably going to be like my closing note for today. Just don't try to compartmentalize that stuff and forget about it. put it out there in front of you and get it off your chest, man. Be healthier today than you were yesterday. Be a better version of yourself today than you were yesterday. I want every one of you guys to have a great day, great night, great weekend. Whatever you're doing, man, do it with love. Do it wholeheartedly. You never know when your last day is. So just live it up, baby. Anyways, this is Chance, the Chance Pingleton Show. That's just my luck. We'll be back soon for episode 2. And I'm sure by then I'll have something to talk about. That was just my luck. Anyways, peace and love, baby. You boys be good.